Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to really dive deep into a topic I think we can all relate to, willpower.
Yeah.
Um, we've got this fascinating report from the American Psychological Association. It's titled, What You Need to Know About Willpower. The Psychological Science of Self-Control.
Okay.
We're not just going to define willpower, though.
Right.
We're going to unpack the why behind it,
Mm-hmm.
how it works in your brain, and most importantly, how you can actually strengthen your self-control.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about willpower is that it's often seen as this intangible quality.
Right.
But there's a real science underpinning it. It's not just about trying hard. There are actual strategies that you can use to improve.
Well, we all want more of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That extra cookie you shouldn't have eaten, hitting snooze one too many times.
Oh, yeah.
The APA even found that lack of willpower is the #1 reason that people give for not making healthy changes.
It's a common struggle. But the good news is willpower is not some fixed trait. It's something that we can learn and we can improve upon, just like any other skill.
That's reassuring to hear.
Mm.
So where do we even begin? What are the building blocks of willpower?
Well, psychologist Roy Baumeister breaks down achieving goals into 3 key components.
Okay.
Motivation, monitoring your progress, and then willpower as the action step.
Okay.
Willpower is what helps you to actually execute the plan.
Okay, so it's not just about wanting something badly enough. It's about having the self-control to follow through. Now, I'm curious about how this develops. Is willpower something we're born with, or is it something we learn?
That's where the famous marshmallow test comes in. You've probably heard of it.
Yeah.
Psychologist Walter Rischel, he
Wow.
gave preschoolers a choice.
Okay.
1 marshmallow now,
Right.
or 2 if they waited.
Oh, yeah.
It's a simple experiment, but it reveals so much about our ability to delay gratification.
That's such a classic study. I remember hearing about it years ago, but it's not just about candy, right? We face these kinds of choices all the time as adults. Do I stay up late, binge watching, or get a good night's sleep? Spend money now or save for later? These are like daily willpower tests.
Exactly. And Michel's hot-cool system helps explain this.
Okay.
You've got the impulsive hot system that wants instant gratification,
Yeah.
and then the cool system that is more thoughtful and future-oriented.
Okay.
It's that angel and devil on your shoulder, but it's happening within your own brain.
So how do those kids who were able to resist the marshmallow, how do they fare later in life? I'm dying to know.
So this is where it gets fascinating.
Okay.
When Michel followed up with these kids years later,
Yeah.
he found that the ones who were able to wait longer for the marshmallows
Oh.
had better outcomes
Okay.
as teenagers and adults.
Wow.
Higher SAT scores,
Wow.
better coping skills,
Okay.
even healthier body weights on average.
Wait, so their ability to resist a marshmallow as a preschooler could predict their success later in life? That's mind-blowing. Does this mean the marshmallow test is some kind of crystal ball predicting our future?
It's a thought-provoking question.
Right.
While it doesn't mean the test perfectly predicts the future,
Okay.
it does highlight the power of self-control and its potential long-term impact. Perhaps learning to manage those impulsive hot system urges early on can really set us up for success.
That's definitely something to ponder. Okay, so we've established that willpower is important, but it also seems like something we use all the time throughout the day.
Yes.
So what happens when we're constantly resisting temptation? Does our willpower run out?
That's where the concept of willpower depletion comes in.
Okay.
Think of your self-control as a muscle that gets tired after being used too much.
Okay.
There's a finite amount of willpower that we have available at any given time.
Okay. I'm starting to see why I cave and order takeout after a super stressful day. But is this just a feeling, or is there actual science behind this?
There's real science to it. For example, a classic study by Baumeister involved participants who were either told to resist eating delicious cookies or forced to eat radishes while staring at the cookies.
Oh, that's cruel.
Right.
Yeah.
Afterward, they were given a difficult task. The radish eaters, who had to exert more self-control, simply couldn't focus as well as those who ate the cookies.
Wow.
Their willpower was depleted.
So resisting those tempting cookies actually took a mental toll. And it's not just about food, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing other things can deplete our willpower too.
Absolutely. Suppressing your emotions,
Yeah.
making difficult decisions, even navigating those tricky social situations can drain your willpower reserves.
I can definitely relate to that. Forcing a smile at a party when you're exhausted or biting your tongue during a frustrating meeting, Those things take serious effort.
So is this just about feeling tired then, or is something else going on?
It's more than just feeling tired. Research suggests there are actual changes in brain activity.
And even fluctuations in blood sugar that play a role in willpower depletion.
Hold on, blood sugar. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Our brains need glucose, which is basically fuel, to function properly.
Okay.
Some researchers believe that when we exert a lot of self-control, our brain cells burn through glucose faster than it can be replenished.
Interesting.
This could explain why we crave sugary snacks when we're feeling mentally drained. Our brains are looking for a quick energy boost.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's all starting to connect now. So how does this relate to our everyday lives, especially when it comes to things like building healthy habits?
That's a great question, and where we'll pick up next.
All right, so we left off talking about how our brains actually use glucose, like fuel, to power our willpower.
Yeah.
It's making me rethink those late-night snack cravings.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And it really highlights how willpower isn't just this vague mental force,
Right.
It has biological underpinnings.
Yeah.
But let's bring this back to those healthy habits you mentioned.
Right. Because whether it's eating healthier, exercising regularly, or managing our money willpower is often seen as the key to success. But if it's a limited resource, how do we make it last?
That's the challenge, isn't it? We know willpower is depleted with use,
Right.
and healthy habits often require consistent effort. It can create a tricky cycle
Yeah.
where limited willpower makes resisting temptation harder, leading to further depletion.
It's like trying to climb a hill while carrying a backpack that keeps getting heavier. But I'm also thinking about how our motivation plays into this. I mean, if you're really passionate about something,
Yeah,
doesn't that give you an extra push?
you're absolutely right. The report highlights the importance of internal motivation.
Yeah.
People who resist temptation for their own reasons,
Right.
not just to please others or follow external rules, tend to fare better.
So finding your why is crucial. It's not just about willpower. It's about aligning your actions with your values and goals. That makes a lot of sense. But I also want to touch on something we all face,
Yeah.
our environment.
Yes.
It's tough to resist temptation when it's staring you in the face, right?
Yeah, you've hit on a crucial point. It's not just about individual willpower.
Right.
It's about the context we're in. The report even acknowledges the debate around how much our environment contributes to things like obesity.
Right. We're constantly bombarded with ads for unhealthy food.
Yes.
And those tempting treats are often cheaper and more readily available than healthier options.
Exactly. It's not about blaming ourselves or our environment.
Right.
It's about understanding how both factors interact.
Yeah.
By recognizing the influence of our surroundings, we can be more proactive about making choices that support our goals.
So it's like setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
If you know you're prone to late night snacking,
Yeah.
maybe don't keep a bag of chips on the counter. Speaking of temptation,
Right.
let's shift gears for a moment and talk about finances. Impulse buying, online shopping, those can be real willpower drainers.
Oh, absolutely. And research has shown that even seemingly small acts of self-control, like ignoring words on a screen, can make people more likely to overspend later on.
Wait, really? Just ignoring words can make us spend more. Tell me more about that.
Researchers Vose and Faber showed volunteers a silent film
Okay.
with words appearing at the bottom of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Some participants were instructed to ignore those words, which required self-control, while
Yeah.
others didn't have to. Later, they were all shown product listings and asked how much they would pay.
Okay.
The participants who had to ignore the words earlier were willing to spend significantly more.
That is fascinating. So even a seemingly minor task requiring self-control can have a ripple effect on our spending habits.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what else is subtly impacting our willpower throughout the day.
It's eye-opening, isn't it? And it gets even more thought-provoking when we consider the impact of poverty on willpower.
That's a powerful point. It's easy to assume that people struggling financially just lack willpower. But I have a feeling there's more to the story.
You're right. Dean Spears' research really sheds light on this. He studied financial decision-making in both rural India and among American shoppers, and he found that people in poverty aren't necessarily lacking willpower,
Okay.
but they face so many more depleting decisions on a daily basis.
So it's not that they have less willpower, it's that their willpower is constantly being challenged by the circumstances they face.
Exactly. Every choice from buying groceries to figuring out transportation
Yeah.
becomes a willpower test. It's incredibly draining.
This is starting to paint a bleak picture. It sounds like we're fighting a losing battle against willpower depletion.
Hmm.
Is there any hope for strengthening our self-control?
There is. Remember the muscle analogy?
Yeah.
Well, just like any muscle, willpower can be strengthened through practice.
Okay.
And the report offers some encouraging strategies for doing just that.
Okay, this is what I've been waiting for. Let's get to the good stuff. What are
Yeah.
some practical tips for boosting our willpower?
One simple but effective tactic is to reduce temptation.
Mm-hmm.
Think back to the marshmallow test.
Yeah.
The kids who distracted themselves were more successful at resisting the treat.
Right.
The same applies to us adults.
Out of sight, out of mind, right? I know I'm guilty of leaving tempting snacks on the counter. Maybe I should move those to the back of the pantry.
All right.
What else can we do?
Planning ahead is another key strategy.
Okay.
Psychologists call this implementation intentions.
Okay.
It's basically about creating if-then statements to predetermine how you'll handle situations that test your willpower.
I love this.
Mm.
So if you know you tend to overspend online,
Yeah.
you could decide beforehand, if I'm tempted to buy something, I'll wait 24 hours before adding it to my cart.
Exactly. That way you're not relying solely on willpower in the heat of the moment,
Right,
which
right.
can be incredibly challenging when you're already feeling depleted.
It's like outsourcing your decision-making to your past self, who had more willpower to spare. What other strategies can we use to bolster our willpower reserves?
Well, despite having a limited willpower pool, research suggests we also have reserves for emergencies.
Oh, okay.
And one of the best ways to tap into those reserves is strong motivation.
So if we really care about something, we can push through even when we're feeling drained.
Exactly. Mervin's research showed that even willpower-depleted individuals could persist on a challenging task
Yeah,
when they were offered a reward or told that their efforts would benefit others.
that's inspiring. It means our values and purpose can fuel our willpower.
Yeah.
It's not just about gritting our teeth and pushing through. It's about finding the deeper why that drives us. But let's be realistic. We're not all going to become willpower superheroes overnight. What's a good starting point for someone who wants to improve their self-control?
The report emphasizes that trying to change everything at once is a recipe for willpower disaster.
Right.
It's better to focus on one specific habit at a time. Yes, the classic New Year's resolution trap. We get overly ambitious and then end up feeling overwhelmed and giving up.
Exactly. Instead, choose one small area that you want to focus on. Once you've mastered that, move on to the next. So instead of tackling a whole list of habits, we should focus on making gradual, sustainable changes. It's like training for a marathon. You wouldn't try to run 26 miles on day one.
Right, exactly.
And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of willpower,
Okay.
our mindset.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not, our beliefs and attitudes can actually influence our self-control.
Really? So you're telling me that what we think about willpower can affect how much willpower we have?
There's research to back that up. Studies have shown that people who believe willpower is a limited resource are actually more likely to experience willpower depletion.
Wow.
It's almost like they're setting themselves up for failure. Wow, so our mindset really does matter. If we believe we have a limited supply of willpower, we're more prone to give in to temptation. What happens if we flip that belief, though? What if we see willpower as something we can actually strengthen?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Researchers have found that people who view willpower as a muscle that can be trained tend to be more resilient in the face of challenges. They're more likely to bounce back from setbacks and keep pursuing their goals.
So instead of saying, I don't have enough willpower, we should be saying, I'm working on strengthening my willpower.
Exactly. And this is where self-compassion comes in.
Okay.
Instead of beating yourself up when you slip up, try to approach those moments with understanding and kindness. Remember, everyone makes mistakes. It's about learning from those experiences and moving forward.
That makes so much sense. We need to be our own cheerleaders, not our own worst critics. It's like offering the same kindness and support to ourselves that we would to a friend who was struggling. And speaking of support, I'm wondering about the role of our social connections. Can our relationships actually help us strengthen our willpower?
Absolutely. Social support can be a powerful resource when it comes to self-control. Studies show that people who feel connected to others are more likely to make healthy choices and stick to their goals. You know, it's not just about individual effort.
Right.
Our social networks play a big role.
So having friends, family, or even online communities that believe in us and support our goals can make a big difference. Do you think it works the other way around too? Can helping others boost our own willpower?
It seems so. Acts of kindness and generosity have been shown to increase self-control and reduce impulsive behavior.
That's amazing. So by supporting others, we're actually supporting our own willpower as well. It's a win-win. This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. We've covered the science behind willpower, practical tips for strengthening it, and even explored the power of mindset and social support.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
And I hope you feel equipped to apply this knowledge to your own life. Remember, willpower isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about progress, not perfection. It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and goals, one small step at a time.
So as you go about your week, pay attention to those moments when you're tempted to give in to that impulsive urge. See if you can pause, take a deep breath, and make a choice that supports your long-term well-being. Remember, you have the power to choose.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep believing in your own incredible potential.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into willpower. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. And until next time, get those willpower muscles strong.